As I grew up, I noticed something different about myself. Unlike many other ladies my age, I wasn't very interested in boys. While they spent time talking about their crushes or dreaming about getting married, I didn't feel the same excitement. I preferred being on my own or spending time with my family. Because my parents were often busy with work, I stayed a lot with my Aunt Mary. She was a kind and loving woman who had raised me like her own child. Aunt Mary was a single mother, and although she took great care of me, I noticed that she was always by herself. She didn't have many friends, and she never talked about dating or meeting new people. One afternoon, while I was helping clean the house, I went to Aunt Mary's room to ask her a question. The door was slightly open, so I peeked inside. To my surprise, I saw her sitting quietly, doing something I didn't understand at first. She was gently touching her body in a way that looked peaceful but also a little strange. She seemed very deep in thought, almost like she was in her own world, and she didn't notice me standing there. When she finally saw me standing there, she called me into the room. At that time, I was old enough to sense that something was different but still too young to understand everything. I walked in, and Aunt Mary gave me a gentle smile. "You're growing up now," she said softly. "There are some things you might be curious about." I sat beside her as she started explaining. "You know, being a single mother can sometimes be lonely," Aunt Mary said. "I used to be married, but after the divorce, I decided not to marry anyone again. I enjoy being by myself now, and I've found ways to be happy without needing anyone else." Her words confused me a bit, but I was curious. "Why don't you want to get married again, Aunt Mary?" I asked. She sighed and looked out the window before answering. "Sometimes, it's better to be alone than to be in a relationship that doesn't make you happy. I've learned to enjoy my own company, and I don't feel the need to find someone else to complete me." Her explanation made me think deeply. As I grew older, I started to understand what she meant. Aunt Mary wasn't sad or lonely. In fact, she was happy living her life the way she wanted, and she taught me an important lesson: you don't always need someone else to be happy. Everyone has their own journey, and it's okay to choose what makes you feel at peace even if it's different from what others expect. One afternoon, my Aunt Mary and I were sitting together, having one of our usual chats. We talked about everything: school, family, and life in general. Suddenly, she looked at me and asked, "Do you have a boyfriend?" I shook my head. "No, I don't." She smiled and said, "That's okay. But how do you take care of yourself when you feel certain things, like when you have feelings for someone?" I felt a little shy and replied, "I don't really do anything about it." She gave me a curious look and asked, "Do you ever feel like you want to, feel good in your body?" I nodded slowly. Sometimes the feelings are there, but I just ignore them. Aunt Mary smiled again and said gently, "It's normal to feel that way, and it's important to understand your body and what makes you feel comfortable. I'll show you what I do to take care of myself." At first, I wasn't sure what she meant, but she explained it in a calm and caring way. She told me that sometimes, it's okay to take time for yourself, to understand what makes you feel good, and to be comfortable with your own body. Over time, she guided me in learning more about myself. She taught me that it was important to appreciate and love my body. I started to understand where to touch and how to make myself feel happy and relaxed. Before long, I started to feel more connected to my own body. I learned how to appreciate myself in a way I hadn't before. It wasn't just about feeling good, but also about understanding my body and being comfortable with who I was. Aunt Mary always reminded me that there was nothing wrong with taking time for myself. She would say, "It's important to love and care for yourself, no matter what anyone else says." I started to feel more confident and at peace with who I was. As I continued to grow, I realized that understanding yourself is a journey. Aunt Mary's guidance helped me feel more comfortable in my own body. When I was in school, I met a boy who seemed really nice. His name was David, and he always made me laugh. He would tell me funny jokes and smile whenever we talked. It wasn't long before I realized that David liked me a lot. He would always find a way to be near me, and it felt nice to have someone care about me that way. I knew I was a good-looking girl, and people often told me I had a nice smile and a beautiful body. David noticed too, and he made me feel special. Before I knew it, We were spending more and more time together, and soon, we started calling each other boyfriend and girlfriend. At first, everything was fun. We would hang out after school, talk about our favorite shows, and laugh about silly things that happened in class. But after a while, things started to change. David began to act differently. He wanted to get closer to me, not just in a friendly way, but in a way I wasn't comfortable with. One day, when we were alone, he tried to lie down next to me on the bed. He wanted to touch me in ways I didn't feel right about. I liked David, but I wasn't ready for that. I told him no several times, trying to make him understand that I didn't want to do those things. But every time I said no, he would look disappointed and frustrated. Even though I cared about him, I knew it wasn't right to do something just because he wanted to. I had to stand up for myself, even if it made him upset. After I told him no again, David started spending less time with me. Soon, he stopped talking to me altogether. I found out later that he had started seeing another girl. It hurt at first. I wondered if I did something wrong, or if I should have said yes just to make him happy. But deep down, I knew that I made the right choice. My feelings and comfort mattered, and if someone couldn't respect that, then they weren't the right person for me. Even though I was a young lady, I wasn't really interested in having a boyfriend like many other girls my age. I enjoyed spending time by myself or with my family, and I didn't feel the need to rush into a relationship. But one day, things changed. I met someone new, and he was different from anyone I had met before. His name was Michael, and he was kind, patient, and always treated me with respect. He didn't pressure me or make me feel uncomfortable. Instead, he listened to me and understood my feelings. At first, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be in a relationship, but over time, I started to like spending more time with Michael. He made me feel happy and comfortable. We would talk for hours about everything: our dreams, our favorite books, and our plans for the future. Unlike other boys I had met, Michael wasn't in a hurry to move things too fast. He respected my boundaries and was okay with taking things slowly. Our relationship grew little by little, and everything felt natural. I felt safe with him, and for the first time, I was in a relationship where I didn't feel any pressure. As the days went by, I realized how much I appreciated having someone who cared about me without asking for more than I was ready to give. Our relationship grew strong because it was built on trust and understanding. I liked how things were going, and everything felt good and right. Michael showed me that being in a relationship didn't mean rushing or doing things just because everyone else was. It was about being with someone who truly respected and cared for you, and that made all the difference. One weekend, my boyfriend Michael invited me to his house to hang out. We had been getting along really well, and I liked spending time with him because he was always kind and fun to be around. When I got there, he invited me into his room, and we started chatting and laughing, just like we usually did. We played some games, watched a movie, and talked about everything from school to our favorite hobbies. It felt nice to just be in each other's company. I had heard from some friends that most boys in relationships only wanted one thing: to be close to a girl in ways that made her uncomfortable. But Michael was different. He never pushed me or made me feel like I had to do something I wasn't ready for. I knew that many guys would have asked for more at this point, especially when they were alone with a girl. But even though Michael seemed interested in me, he didn't ask for anything beyond what I was comfortable with. He respected my boundaries, and I appreciated that more than anything. I stayed over at his place for the weekend, and the highest thing we ever did was a simple kiss on the lips or the cheek. It felt sweet, and I didn't feel any pressure to go further. Michael was always gentle and kind, and I liked how easy it was to be with him without feeling nervous or uncomfortable. By the end of the weekend, I realized how special it was to be in a relationship where I felt safe and respected. Michael wasn't like the other boys who rushed things or expected too much. He cared about me and how I felt, and that made me trust him even more. During the weekend, I found myself alone in a quiet room at Michael's house. I remembered what my Aunt Mary had taught me about understanding and appreciating my own body. She had always said it was important to know yourself and to be comfortable with who you are. Feeling curious and inspired by what my aunt had shared, I decided to take some time for myself, just like she had shown me. I was starting to feel that my body wanted some pleasure, and I thought it might be nice to explore that feeling. I lay down on my bed, taking a deep breath to help myself relax. I closed my eyes and let the quiet of the room surround me. As I lay there, my mind drifted back to the lessons my aunt had taught me. She had explained how important it is to take care of myself, to be kind to my body, and to find ways to make myself feel good without needing anyone else around. As I focused on my breathing, I began to feel more at ease. I gently placed my hands on my body, remembering how my aunt had shown me to listen to what it needed. I took my time, exploring what felt nice, and I found myself smiling. It was a peaceful feeling, knowing that I could give myself care and comfort. I thought about how everyone has different ways of finding happiness, and this was mine. It was okay to take time to appreciate my body and feel good in my own way. I felt proud of myself for being brave enough to try something new and for learning how to enjoy my own presence. As I was lying on the bed, enjoying my own company and feeling peaceful, something unexpected happened. Suddenly, Michael walked into the room. I didn't hear him come in, and when I looked up, I saw the surprise on his face. He looked shocked, his eyes wide as he realized what I was doing. "Wow. What are you doing?" he asked, looking both surprised and a little confused. I felt my cheeks turn red. I didn't expect him to walk in like that. I quickly sat up, feeling a bit embarrassed. "I was just taking some time for myself," I explained. "Sometimes it's nice to relax and understand my body better." Michael paused for a moment, still trying to understand the situation. "But why would you do this when I'm around?" "I'm here for you. I want to make you happy and give you everything you want," he said, his voice filled with concern. I could see that he cared about me and wanted to be there for me. I appreciated that he wanted to help, but I also knew that it was important for me to have my own space and time. "I understand that, but this is something I like to do for myself too. It helps me feel good, and it's something I can do alone," I said gently. Michael nodded slowly, still processing what I was saying. "I get it, but I just want you to know that you can always talk to me about anything. I'm here for you," he said, his expression softening. At that moment, I realized how important it was to communicate with each other. I wanted him to understand that loving yourself and taking time for yourself didn't mean I didn't care about him. It was just a part of who I was. I smiled at him, feeling more comfortable. "Thank you for understanding. It means a lot to me that you care," I said. Michael smiled back, and I could see that he was beginning to understand. We talked for a little while longer about how it was okay to have our own time, and that it didn't change how much we cared for each other. In the end, I felt relieved and happy that we could communicate openly. It made our relationship even stronger. I looked at Michael and said, "I thought you were busy and not interested in spending time together." He sighed and admitted, "I have been busy, but I didn't know how to ask for it. I really wanted to be close to you." Just then, Michael looked at me with a serious expression and asked a question that made my heart race. "Do you think we should take things to the next level?" I knew exactly what he meant, and my stomach flipped with nerves. This would be my first time being with a boy in such an intimate way, and I felt a mix of excitement and fear. Until now, I had always learned how to take care of myself on my own, exploring my feelings and understanding my body in my own private way. Michael was sweet and kind, and I enjoyed spending time with him. We had shared laughter and fun moments, and I liked how he made me feel special. But this was different. It was a big step, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for it. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. "What do you mean by that?" I asked, wanting to understand his thoughts better. He smiled gently, sensing my nervousness. "I mean, do you think we should be more close? Like, be together in a way that feels really special?" His words hung in the air, and I felt a whirlwind of emotions inside me. Part of me was curious about what it would be like, but another part of me wondered if I was prepared for such a big change. I remembered the lessons from my aunt about taking things slowly and being sure about my feelings. "I don't know," I replied honestly, looking into his eyes. "I've never done something like that before. It feels new to me." Michael nodded, understanding my hesitation. "That's okay. We don't have to rush. We can take our time and talk about it. I just wanted to know how you feel." I took a deep breath and decided to say okay. All right, let's see what happens, I replied, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. Before I knew it, Michael started to undress, and I felt my cheeks heat up. I couldn't believe I was about to share such a special moment with him. As we were together, I noticed that Michael seemed to be really enjoying it. His face was full of happiness, and I wanted to feel the same way. But deep inside, I realized that I didn't enjoy it as much as I did when I was alone. It felt different, and I wasn't sure how to feel comfortable in this new experience. Even though I was unsure, I decided to keep going. I thought to myself, let's just see where this takes us. It was all so new and strange, and I knew I had to figure things out as we went along. After that day, Michael gave me some advice. You know, if you ever feel the need to take care of yourself, you can just call me. We can talk about it, he said kindly. His words made me feel better. I realized that I didn't have to choose between taking care of myself and being with him. Gradually, I started to feel more comfortable with Michael. I got used to being close to him, and slowly, my old habits faded away. I learned how to connect with him in a way that felt good for both of us. As time went by, I found myself becoming closer to Michael. The more we were together, the more I understood how to enjoy our relationship. My worries faded, and I felt ready to take the next steps in our journey together. Before I knew it, I was thinking about our future. I felt excited about the possibility of getting married to him one day. I learned that it was okay to take my time and that building a relationship was a journey we could share together. As I spent more time with my boyfriend, I noticed that my habits of taking care of myself had faded. He guided me in new ways to feel good and enjoy our time together. At first, I used to explore and find pleasure on my own, but now, with his gentle support and kindness, I was learning to enjoy being close to someone else. Every moment we shared felt special, and I began to understand that there were different ways to feel happy and connected. With him by my side, I was discovering new experiences, and it felt nice to share those feelings with someone I cared about. I realized that being with my boyfriend helped me grow and learn more about myself, making me appreciate the journey we were on together.